What's up, and welcome back to the Unreal Podcast. I got a special guest today. If you want to introduce yourself.
What's up? My name is Rohan Johnson. 2015 Kingston graduate. Graduate from SUNY Delhi. Also currently getting my bachelor's degree at SUNY New Paltz. You guys can follow me on the Instagram at Row the Trainer. Yeah, let's get started.
You graduated in 2015?
2015, I graduated.
Damn, that makes me feel old as shit now, because I graduated in 2012, and it didn't feel like it was that long ago. But wow. But anyway, I'm excited to have you on, man. You're my first person in the world of athletics, which I'm excited about because I love sports.
Yeah.
So we'll get into first before we get into the the training stuff. How did you start out getting into basketball as far as playing? Like what levels did you play at, stuff like that?
So when I was younger, actually, I only played football because that's the only thing we could afford to play when I lived in a city. Mm-hmm. So I played football up until like the age of 10 when we moved to Kingston from the city, and I started playing basketball actually at the Boys and Girls Club.
Nice.
And I met Chris Sesh, who I'm actually staying with now, who became like a father figure to me, and I just fell in love with the game from there. And I played all the way up until high school. Actually, I had to stop in high school. Well, after high school because I got diagnosed with an enlarged heart. So
wow.
that was like the end of my playing career, and like I knew it. So like I went to SUNY Delhi. I had a bunch of scholarships and like places I could have played, but I got them taken away because you can't get cleared medically for that to play competitively. And it's not really anything that can like stop you from playing. There's only been one case of a kid like dying from it, like on court, and it was actually the same year I got diagnosed. So I was like,
wow.
I knew like once that came up, like,
and it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it turned out to be a blessing. Like, so I went up to Delhi, and I tried out for the team actually, and then the coach got my medicals, and he was like, you can't play, but if you want to stick around and become like a student assistant coach, you could do that. And then I started doing that, and while I was there, I started realizing there was a lot of things missing from the game that you couldn't really teach as a coach because you're dealing with 12 players at one time. So then I started like working with a couple of players there, and then that's when kind of my training career took off.
That's dope. So when you first found out that you were, that you weren't going to be able to play, I would imagine that was probably obviously something tough to deal with, especially because you said you had that love for the game. So what was it like? Were you resistant at first to the transition from like player to, trainer / coach / advocate? Like, were you resistant or?
No, because like I always knew that my playing career would stop eventually.
Yeah.
But and I always wanted to coach, and then I got into coaching and I learned more about it. I know a bunch of coaches, and I realized it's such a business that I wanted to do something different, but still be a part of the game. So I knew it wasn't like a hard transition at all. It was hard starting the business and stuff like that, and getting people to like trust you and train with you and stuff. But besides that, like knowing that that's what I was going into, and it was easy. But the hardest part was being so young and doing it. And even still now, like being young and.
So how do you now? Of course, so again, like you said, being young. So especially if you're talking about people who are older or just who have more experience, a lot of times people will look like, man, who are you telling? Like you've been doing this for a year. I've been playing ball for 10 years. Because I know you work with adults and all levels and pro athletes too. We'll get to that too. But so how do you approach situations like in a way that you can get people to respect you, but also in a way that it's not like you're trying to overstep your bounds or anything like that?
I do a lot of studying, so like a lot of it, I take it as a real job. Like I'm watching film 24/7. I'm watching games. I'm taking notes on my phone. I write notes in books. Like I have like 3 notebooks full of notes. So that's like kind of like the way I'm prepared. And when I'm going into a workout, I treat every kid like a pro, whether they are a pro or whether they're like in 5th grade. I treat every kid like I'm working with a pro athlete. So most times, to be honest, I'm nervous to start with, but then once we start getting going and I notice that they're comfortable with me, and it usually takes a workout or 2 for them to get comfortable, then everything's fine. And I realize like this, sometimes it just wakes me up and realize like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and like I feel fine after.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, I would just say like just from what I've observed like in like watching a lot of different sports and stuff, you hear a lot of people say a lot of it is about like your respect for the game. If you have a respect to the game to the point where, like you said, you're studying, you're doing your job, like you know what you're talking about, it's way easier to get people on board than if you just came in there and were like, oh, I'm here because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to what I got to say. Like, no, look, I studied the game. Like, I know the rules. I know this and that.
And you learn a lot from the players you also work with. Like, for instance, like Brian Moore, who's been with me since I started, like me and him, like kind of did this together. Like I learned a lot from him as much as I taught him. So like, it's always an opportunity to learn while you're in new sessions with new people or even older people you've been with. They can just don't be willing to learn all the time.
Yeah.
Like don't think you know it all just because whatever, I've been doing it for 5 years or however long you've been doing it, just don't think you know it all. Just be willing to continue to learn.
That's that strive for greatness. Like I always use the example. I've probably said this in 5 episodes, but now I got a sports person, so it'll make a lot more sense. But I always say, like, if you watch the greats of the game, you know, the LeBrons, the Tom Brady's, the Kobe's, rest in peace to Kobe.
Yeah.
Any of those people, like when they have their best games, almost 100% of the time they come off the court and they're like, you know, LeBron could drop 6 and he'd be like, man, but I had that one turnover at 3:48 in the third quarter. And you're like, what? They're so focused on always improving.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show, if you could be that great, if you could be like a god tier player and still want to get better, then why shouldn't everybody think that they could get better every day?
And that's exactly what like kind of being a trainer is just helping a person get better mentally, physically. You know, it's almost like being a psychiatrist for these people, for these players, and then being their best friend, sometimes like being their parent, you know what I mean? So it's always fun to like see him grow as a person and then also see him grow as a basketball player. Yeah. And it helps out a lot. And like going back to like the coaching and stuff, like I always look back at like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, you know what I mean? Like
I'm a Patriots fan.
Yeah, me too. But Bill Belichick obviously isn't better than Tom Brady at his position.
Right.
But I don't even think Bill Belichick played football professionally, but he's one of the greatest coaches of all time, you know what I mean? So I always look back at that, and when people say, you know, you never played college basketball, you never played professionally, how are you going to teach a pro anything? And I always look back at that and give that example.
Yeah, because it's a different skill set, and it's a tough skill set to be able to, you know, it's one thing to be great, but it's another thing to inspire others to be great, to bring out the greatness in others. And going back to Bill Belichick, that's what makes him so great, is that it's like, if you look at now I've been a fan for a long time, so you know what I'm talking about. If you look at some of the people who have come and gone, it's very rare that a player was better before or after Belichick. They're almost always at their best under his tutelage, because he figures that out, and he finds people who are just, it's like Matthew Slater, he's a Pro Bowler. He's been a Pro Bowler for how many years in a row? He just does special teams, but he's had how many epic, important special teams plays. And Belichick is not sitting here talking like, no, you need to be a receiver because you're, you know, 6'2" and you're fat. It's like, no, this is what you do. We're going to make you the best at this specific thing. Everybody does their job. But something interesting you said that I want to talk about is going back to, I think a lot of people probably don't realize this, but it's a way different role. You know, doing what you do and being a trainer is sort of like a tutor to a teacher, because a teacher has to oversee a group of people. It's very hard to give each individual person that attention, as opposed to a tutor where it's literally those one-on-one sessions. So how do you think it is doing that? Because like you said, you kind of have the advantage of being able to sit down one-on-one and specifically work with these people. So what kind of stuff have you learned being able to sit down one-on-one instead of having to go, you know, with a large group of people at a time?
I think that way you learn how everyone is motivated differently. That's like kind of my main like important part of my job, is being able to motivate everyone individually. Like everyone doesn't like being yelled at. You know what I mean? So you got to know which kid you can yell at, and then you got to know which kid you got to like kind of coddle a little bit in order to get them in gear. And then it's also like you get to build that relationship with them outside of basketball, and you get to know more about like what's going on, like what other sports they're playing, how they're doing in school, what's going on at home. Like you can't really do that as a coach, because essentially you have 12 kids you got to worry about. And with those 12 kids, you also got their parents to worry about. You got to make sure everyone's happy. With me, I just got to make sure this kid's happy at this time when they're in the gym with me, and I just got to make sure they're fine. And I don't have to make sure they're all fine together, you know what I mean, at one point. I just have to make sure they're fine individually. So
right.
For me, in a way, like it's a lot easier for me, I think, than coaching, honestly.
So when you do like a training session, do you come up with and create your own drills and stuff like that? Like, do you do a routine thing with each person, or is it each person comes in and they all work on different stuff?
So it's different off season, in season. So I'll start with the off season, which is like the busiest time. We kind of like do a lot more intense things, and it's never the same. Usually I contact whatever coach they're gonna play with in the summer or during the fall. I'll contact them and ask them, what do you want these players to work on? Like, give me 3 specific things you want them to work on, and we'll lock in on those 3 specific things. But every session has ball handling, shooting, and passing in it. So we work on those three, but everything may be different. As far as like, so if a player needs to work on catch and shooting, his main part, then we'll lock in on that during the summer. Okay. And then we'll add counters to catching and shooting. So catch, pump fake, 1 dribble, pull up to the right. Catch, pump fake, 1 dribble, pull up to the left, stuff like that. And then during the in-season, it's a little bit more, we'll do the same kind of routine, but we'll focus on now your plays. Like, how are you going to score within your play? And there's a lot more film work during the in-season. So I'll watch a lot of, like, almost every game, and I'll text every player after every game and let them know what I think. And then I'll take those same texts and take what I thought about it and put it in my notes, and then we'll go over those same thing in the workouts. And it will be based on their plays where they're going to score the ball, where I see opportunities for them to score, or where I see opportunities where they can help someone else score.
That's dope. I think a lot of people don't realize, because you see a lot of like basketball head coaches, they catch a lot of slack because a lot of times people are like, man, like, does the coach really do anything? Like, at the end of the day, the players go out there and play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a small roster, but the one thing I will say about basketball, as opposed to like football or something, is that everything that the player's doing is always in real time. That everything is thinking on the fly. Like a quarterback, like a Tom Brady, he can look at things and he can, read the game. And obviously he does it at a way different level. But being able to see things before they happen, you can predict stuff. In basketball, I mean, if the point guard is at the top of the key, you're limited to 24 seconds, which is probably about 20 seconds by the time you get there. And then you got to think everybody's moving around at all times for the most part. So like, how do you? It's like, and then you're in such a small space, like trying to figure that out. So, specifically on when it comes to like passing drills and stuff like that, and like you said, like reading the floor and understanding your plays, how do you help people do that? Because I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like if I'm dribbling the ball, I'm like, wow, like how do I figure out he's going to be here and pick and rolls and all this stuff?
So so you brought up pick and rolls, for example. So pick and rolls, it depends on the person that's setting the screen. So if the person that's setting the screen, if I noticed on film every time they let's say they roll to the corner instead of rolling to the rim, we'll do moves that gets this player to the middle of the floor, but they can make a pass to the corner instead of driving all the way down the middle and getting stuck in the lane where that person isn't supposed to be. You know what I mean? So we'll do stuff like that. So it's when I'm watching film, I am watching a specific player, but I'm also watching every player around them to see how they react and see ways that they can help that player out. So that's crazy. That's one. It is crazy.
That sounds like a lot. It's a lot. Like you said, a lot of studying, a lot of just focusing. Because like you said, your job is to get this one person to fit their role, but also getting them to do it within a system.
Yeah, exactly.
So that must require like crazy amounts. So when you're going to work with a player, what is the process? Like you connect with whoever. Yeah. Like you said, you reach out to their coach, and then you kind of just watch film of them and their game, and then you plan something out.
So like if I don't have a player yet, like so let's say a player plans on coming in after the season in the summer, I'll go to their games and make sure I still check up on them, and I'll watch their film. Usually I'm logged into their huddle through their coach, so I'll watch their film, and I'll still text them throughout the game what I thought could have went well, what I thought went bad, and stuff like that. And then after the season, same concept as I talked about in the offseason, I'll contact their coach and we'll get going like that. I used to when I first started, I went to workouts with a pre-plan, like what I was going to do that day. But now I kind of go off of feel. So if you come in,
probably a lot better.
Yeah, if you come in, I ask you like how you're feeling, and you tell me, oh, you're a little sore. We'll do more things where it's not a lot of cutting and moving. But if you tell me you're feeling fine, we'll do more things where you're like dribbling and moving more, stuff like that. But I never go into a workout. I have stuff pre-planned in my head, but I don't have it written down, so I know I can change it. I'm not stuck to this list that I have.
Yeah, I think that's cool. That's exactly how I pretty much structure all this, where it's like you have a couple of like launching points, like a couple of topics or whatever, a couple of things that you're going to do. And then you just, like you said, you feel it out as you go along because, I'm much more of like an impromptu kind of guy. I think it's more organic and you're going to get actual answers as opposed to like structuring everything, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how I feel about school too, where it's like, like I had gone to college like a couple different times and still never got a degree. It was a way different scenario for me because I feel like learning in a classroom, you're strapped to whatever the curriculum is. So if everything they're saying is everything you want to pick up, that's great. But if you want other information, it's your responsibility to go seek it elsewhere. Yeah. So you said you've already graduated. You're still working on.
I'm still working on my bachelor's right now.
And what's your bachelor's in?
Psychology, actually. Yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting because you can bring that level of psychology into the game. Yep. And we'll get into the mental health stuff later. But it's interesting because you see a lot of players. Like I'm a Cavaliers fan, pre and post Bron. Yeah. And but Kevin Love is a huge advocate for men's mental health, especially in athletics. And if there's one thing I notice about athletes, man, it's like as great as they may have it, they are not immune to like hatred and being put to, and like I mean some of the stuff you see people say, it's like like when Bron says, like when people tell him like, oh, just shut up and dribble, like these are people too, and everybody it's easy to be like, oh, you make millions of dollars to do this, like shut up and be happy, but that's not always the case.
I think that's you got to understand that these people are human still, like they still have feelings, emotions, like they make a lot of money, but that doesn't mean they don't have feelings, you know what I mean? Like you got to be careful what you say. Like I always say, if you would never say it to a player in their face, then don't say it at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So as far as the have you ever had, talking about the psychology stuff, have you ever had any experiences that were really tough, like players who were like a lot tougher to crack, people it took you a lot longer to build that relationship with, who might have been resistant to you at first or giving you a hard time? Or is it usually a pretty smooth transition where you link up and, like you said, like, it takes a couple sessions, but you're like, all right, we built this relationship, there's some trust there, let's work together?
I think it's I can't think of any player that have like long term that I had trouble building a relationship with, honestly. I mean, every relationship I have is different. Like some of them I consider like my brothers and sisters, and some of them are players that I just have relationships with as far as like basketball goes. But I can't think of anyone that I've had trouble with like building a relationship with. Honestly, I would say probably like my first couple of years, like Brian was the toughest one because he reminded me a lot of me when I was younger. Like didn't trust anyone. Was just like macho, like I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, like I'm not gonna tell anyone how I feel, stuff like that. But like as the years went on, like he became like my little brother. So it's like besides him, like I can't think of anyone else that I've had trouble with that to build that relationship with.
Yeah, it's dope, and I like that you said how in the off season, and it seems like just sports in general. I think a lot more players are starting to become more dedicated to the off season, because again, if you see the greats, like you see LeBron, like the second that the finals is over, win or lose, he's like back in the gym. All these great players are working on their game and they're collaborating and they're getting together. So is it like you said, like once the off season comes around, like you bucket down, you're like, all right, let's get into let's get into
it's a
mode.
little different. So like I tell my players to take 2 weeks off as soon as the season's over. Like just try to get away from basketball, go do something fun for a little bit. Just because I feel like, especially if you just had a rough season, take 2 weeks off and figure out why you play the game. Go back to why you started playing in the first place.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of players, you hear a lot of them say like they either lost that or they found that, and it's like, oh, I forgot why I love this game, and you start to question everything, especially after a tough season.
Yeah, so I always tell them take 2 weeks off, and then we start off a little bit slow, and then as the summer goes on, we pick up the intensity and stuff like that, and we'll keep on the intensity high until preseason, and then we'll die down once in season starts.
That's cool, man. So we'll take a quick break, and then when we get back, I definitely want to hear about the stuff you've done. I was on your page, man. I saw some of the people you're working with. I was like, what? Even like I said, I'm a Cavs fan, and I seen you working with Kevin Porter, and I'm like, oh. And he's a Cavalier, so that was cool. So we'll take a break for a second. We'll get to that stuff. We'll play a little game. This is my first time. You're my first guest playing the game.
Nice.
I bought a game from this place called Barstool Sports called Answer the Internet.
Nice.
So I got a couple of sports-based questions, so we'll make it a little fun, and then we'll finish off with the youth. I definitely want to hear about the stuff that you got to say about working with the youth and stuff. So we'll be right back. All right. So we're gonna have a little fun here. So like I said, I got this game, and I picked a couple of sports questions that I think will be interesting. You haven't seen him yet. I looked at him earlier, so I'll lead the way. So the first one is, if you could go to any sporting event ever, which would it be? And I'm gonna take this as past, it has to be past because it's already happened. So if I had to pick one, I'll tell you exactly what it'd be. I would have picked Game 7, 2016 NBA Finals, because like I said, I'm a Cavs fan. That's our only title.
Yeah.
And that series, first of all, I never had more ups and downs. I'm pretty sure like my blood pressure shot through the roof and bottomed out in the same day. I'll never forget though that series, man, and just watching like when Kyrie hit that shot. Oh my goodness, that was just crazy to me. If I could pick any game to be at, it would have definitely been. And because Oracle Arena, you got to think too, that was like the second to last year at Oracle. That arena has always had one of the biggest fan bases, like this, the atmosphere in general, and then being on the opposing team. Yeah, that would have been dope. So I'll probably pick the 2016 Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
Let me think. All right, so I'll stay basketball, but I'm a big Damian Lillard fan, so I think I will go Game 7 last year when he hit that buzzer beater against Paul George.
First of all, he's on a tear right now.
He's on a tear.
He's averaging, I just saw, I think he's the first player in NBA history. In the last like 6 games, he's averaging like 48 and 10.
Yeah.
What?
I'm going.
He is on one right now.
I was big on Dame when I first started training, and that's kind of so I watch a lot of NBA players and take a lot of their moves and put it to like players that are similar. Yeah. So he was one of the people that I thought was like super similar to a lot of the players that I worked with, and I just loved watching them. And at times I'd be in the library up at Delhi watching film, and all my boys would be like, "Oh, he's not that good. Like you love Dame."
He's a monster.
And now he's doing what he is. So I'm like,
he doesn't really have. I mean, CJ's been on one, and they got a nice little team around them, but. It's cool they got Melo over there too now. But if you think about it, like he's got one of the weaker out of all the superstars in the NBA. He's got one of the less talented supporting cast, and he's just been balling out.
He's kind of got to.
So definitely shout out to Dame Lillard. All right, the next one. Would you rather get pegged by a Randy Johnson fastball in the ribs, hit by Ray Lewis coming across the middle, or punched in the face by Floyd Mayweather? To be honest with you.
That's a tough one.
I definitely don't want the Randy Johnson fastball to the ribs, man.
I don't want that either.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ray Lewis.
I mean.
First of all, this dude killed somebody one time. I'm definitely not trying to be hit. I'll probably take Floyd only because even though he's one of the greatest ever, he's not like a super hard puncher. Yeah. He's more of a defensive boxer.
Yeah.
I'll probably take the Floyd. I think I'm getting a broken
I think I'm going to go with Floyd also, though, because same thing. He's kind of like a speed boxer. Yeah. So I would go with Floyd probably also.
Yeah, I'm just, honestly, I think the one I would least want is the Randy. Like, really think about a fastball right to the rib.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cracking the rib for sure. All right, last one. This is a good one. Would you rather win a Little League World Series title or be a AAA baseball player who will never get called up?
Little League.
I would take the Little League one. First of all, Little League World Series is popping these
days.
Dope. I love. Those kids are in Hawaii. And
I
all
love
the
watching
country.
it too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'll probably take that because, oh man, like not nothing against AAA players. But obviously, if you're in the AAA, like you have aspirations. That's like being a G League player forever. It's not bad. You're still better than the average person, but you probably want to be in the NBA. And if you don't make it, you're gonna be mad the whole time.
I'm competitive. I like winning, so I'm gonna take the Little League World Series.
So I'll take that. I'll take the Little League World Series chip. So. Anyway, that's fun, man. I'm happy. Like I said, I just picked this game up, so I think it'd be cool. Yeah. And I'm gonna try to keep doing, like questions that are specific to the type of guests that I have on. So that would be pretty cool. So, anyway, well, speaking of Dame and all them, so just from what I saw, and you'll have to give me the full rundown. Some of the players you'd worked with were Ben McLemore, Carmelo, Kevin Porter. What other NBA players have you worked with, and how does that come to be, and what is that experience like versus working with other people?
So, the trainer that trains these guys his name's actually Alex Bazell, or Bazell, and he lives in St. Louis, but he flies out to LA every summer and kind of has interns come out and help him. So he wrote me last November, I believe, and asked me to come out and help him. And I was kind of like shocked that,
like, wow,
you want me to help you. So when I went out there to California, we were actually at the Mamba Sports Academy.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so we had Kevin Porter was out there, Tyus Battle, who played at Syracuse, was out there, and Benny Boatwright, who played at USC with Kevin Porter, was out there to begin with. And we helped those guys out. I was there for about a month. I was helping those guys out. And then Ben McLemore's trainer was at the other end, working out with them. So I actually had to guard Ben McLemore for a couple of possessions, and that was tough. That was tough. But he's like gave me respect, and he thought I was a pretty good defender, and I connected with his trainer. But I've never been starstruck before, but like during one of our sessions, Candace Parker walks in, and I'm like,
wow,
yeah. So
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, she's like kind of the Kobe Bryant of like the WNBA, and I was like, holy, like usually like I try to keep my cool, like I'm I'm supposed to be here, like, and like. So she walks in, I'm like, oh my gosh. But like, then she's like super cool. Like she's super nice. She introduced herself. She's like, hi, I'm Candace Parker. I was like, I know. Like, I know who you are. But like, I mean, Nafisi Collier was out there who played at UConn. She's also a WNBA player. And another guy that was like interesting to work out with was Jamie Foxx. He came out and worked out with us actually.
Wow. Yeah, Jamie's really into sports.
He is. He can shoot it a little bit.
Yeah.
He's the funniest. Like,
he's the funniest dude.
We were working out and he was just telling jokes kind of the whole time and like making us laugh. And like I'm trying to be serious, like, oh my, like I need to set the screen or I need to play defense. You know what I mean? And like he's just joking. So we're just like, bro, you gonna tell jokes the whole time or are you gonna like actually work out? And he's like, I'll just tell some jokes. So we like end the workout. He sits on the side and he like just telling us jokes and stuff like that. So that was a fun experience. So when I came back from California, maybe a month later, I get a text from Alex again, like, hey, I'm working with Kyrie tomorrow. Do you want to come down? I'm like,
wow.
Do I want to come down? I'm like, yeah. So I go down to the city. We're at the NBA.
Now he's from Jersey, so is that why he was doing some stuff in the city? Because I know Kyrie's from the Jersey area.
Yeah, so his dad lived I think his dad was still in Jersey at the time. His dad lived in Jersey. I'm sure he had his own place, though. So we went down in the summer. And another time I was starstruck was I was sitting in the lobby. First of all, to get into the NBA PA is, like, super hard to get into.
Oh, yeah, man.
So I'm sitting in the lobby. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get into this place, blah, blah, blah. And then Kyrie walks in. I'm like, oh, my gosh, that's Kyrie Irving. You know what I mean? So he walks in, and then I get on the elevator with him, and I'm just quiet, like, on my phone and stuff, like, because he doesn't know I'm going to work out with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm just on my phone, and eventually we walk in, and then he was like, oh, I didn't even know, blah, blah. So we're just talking and stuff like that, and we do a workout there at the NBA PA, which is a super dope facility. Like, if someone ever gets a chance to go in there.
And that's in New York City?
That's in New York City, yeah.
Wow, that's big time, man.
Yeah. And then same thing with the Carmelo thing. I was at home and I get a text like, hey, Carmelo's gonna be down here, do you want to help out? I'm like, yeah. So I go down. I drive down and I help him out for 2 days, and then he flies out to Portland. Actually, just before he goes to Portland, that's when we did the workout with Carmelo.
Oh, like recently, right before he went out and signed with Portland?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So that was dope.
He's been playing well too.
Yeah. So they're both super nice. Like Carmelo's huge. Like his hand was like I shook his hand. It was like shaking a baby's hand.
And he lost some weight. He looks a little bigger.
Yeah, he slimmed down too. So it was great having those opportunities. But honestly, without Alex like helping me out, like that wouldn't have been possible at all.
That's crazy. So what kind of stuff did you take any of those experiences, like any of the stuff you learned from either the way that they play, the way that they operate, how they go about things? Did you take any of that and then you started to use that, like, that one time when I was working with Melo, the way that he went to the elbow, something like that? Like,
absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I take away from them is those guys, like I always say, the difference between like working with the rookies that were going to the NBA and then working with the pros. First of all, the pros don't miss like in workouts. They hardly ever.
I always see that. Yeah. I was actually gonna ask you, like, they really don't miss.
They hardly ever
outside
miss
of a game.
But when they do, it doesn't rattle them. Like the younger guys, they get rattled. They're like, oh my gosh, like blah blah, I suck, blah blah, I can't shoot today. But like the pros, they'll miss 2-3 in a row, and then I'm sure in their mind, just like, I'm gonna hit the next one. I'm gonna hit the next one. Like they don't get phased at all. So, excuse me, that's like the biggest thing that I take from them. Like their mindset is like, it's okay to miss. Like it's okay to miss a couple of times, but as soon as you start having this negative self-talk, that's when you take yourself out of this workout. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing I take from them, and I tell to the younger players. But I mean, there's a bunch of things that I take, like the way Melo, like his footwork is still like super, like to see it in person too, like over and over again, it's like super super clean. It's crazy to be able to watch that in person.
Who was the I forget what his Brickley? CJ
Chris Brickley, yeah.
How do you feel about him? Because I see him work with a lot of people, and I think his gym is the one where they play those pickup games.
Yeah. So,
and you see, like,
everybody,
you got a team. One team's got LeBron and Harden and Melo. The other got like J. Cole and Dame Lillard. And like, how does that? Like,
I think Chris Brickley went about it the right way. Like a lot of people, like especially in the training industry, hate on him, but he's someone that like kind of did it his own way. Like, and he kind of inspired me in a way. Like he has a bunch of tattoos. He goes on tours with these rappers. Like he has rappers come to the gym, and he's kind of like a trainer superstar. You know what I mean? But he did it his own way. Like he went through the struggle. There was times where he had Melo in the gym and he wasn't getting paid. You know what I mean? And he just did it because they had a good relationship, and he never asked Melo for a dime. At least that's what the story was. You know what I mean? So for him to have like a Puma deal, and to him,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
he
has a Puma deal. He's endorsed. He's the first first basketball trainer to have a Puma deal.
That's huge, and that opens the door for people like
so too. Like that's like exactly like so. Just like I'm trying to do the same thing that he's doing is super dope. And that's why we had the pickup games in the summer. It was definitely inspired by him, 100%.
Yeah, I had heard about him from a few years ago, but it seems like over the last 2 or 3 years, he's really, and especially like the more big names that are going there.
Yeah.
And even Jake, it's crazy because when I saw Jake, I was like, what the hell are you doing? And then you see him shooting,
he could hoop.
He could kind of hang. I didn't know Jake, but you see, I mean, that's literally where that gym, what's it called? Sky something.
Sky something, but I think he's at Summit NYC right now.
Yeah, but that gym was literally where the legend of Hoodie Melo was.
Yeah, born. Exactly.
Like, and then all of a sudden it became a thing where to the point where he was like riding the wave. He was like, I'll put a hoodie on, I'll make every single shot up in this gym right now. That's crazy. So, but that's cool. I had no idea though about the Puma thing. That's huge. And I had actually wanted to ask you. So, other than Brickley, like, are there any other people as far as specifically trainers who you kind of are inspired by, or you kind of like you take some stuff from them?
So the first trainer that I like started studying heavily was Drew Hanlon, who owns Pure Sweat. He was the first guy that I kind of really followed, and then. Actually, weirdly enough, after Drew, also with Drew, Alex was someone I followed, and then me and Alex got to meet, which was super dope. And he's when you meet, when you see these guys on Instagram and stuff, like you kind of expect them to act a certain way,
right? And then you meet them in person,
they're like super humble, super nice. You know what I mean? Chris Brickley, obviously, the way he does his workouts and also the way he kind of maneuvers his business and stuff is really inspiring. And also just like him being like himself, like him getting tattoos kind of inspired me to get a couple of tattoos. And then him like kind of having music in the gym inspires me to like play my music in the gym, and just him dressing, like being big into fashion kind of made me also want to be big into fashion and like explore those interests. And there's another trainer, his name is Jodrick Michaels. He's actually based out of a place in Germany. Oh, wow. So he has a different training style, but I use a lot of his stuff because it's a lot of like randomized, which I think works a lot because the game, like you said, is random.
Right.
So a lot of his stuff and drills are like randomized. So I like his stuff a lot too.
That's cool, man. And, the beauty about the way that the world is today is that no matter what you're doing, there's so many different avenues that you can self-pursue.
Yeah.
And it's so much more about making those connections than it is, because if you think about it, 30, 40 years ago, you could not get a movie role if you did not go to an acting school and do years and years of this and that and have all these auditions. And, like, nowadays, I mean, literally, you see people who are on Instagram who are getting movie roles and sponsorships and deals and all that stuff. So how do you, and we were talking before off camera about, like, you know, the way that some people perceive it, because the unfortunate truth is that social media is it's all about perception. Yeah. So even like you said, when you see something and you go, but you know, it's kind of on us to go into it with an open mind. Even if you do think a certain way, at least allow yourself to give that person a chance. But I think a lot of times we see this stuff on social media, and then like you said, you meet the person, and you're like, wow, this is not what I expected. It's way cooler than that.
Yeah. So I mean, like, what we talked about off camera is like a lot of people see my Instagram and may think that I'm trying to perceive myself in a way that I guess I'm not. Like first of all, every platform that I'm on is a little bit different. Like if you follow me on Snapchat, like I'm super funny. Like you kind of get a real sense of like how I live. Like I do funny things. I post funny things. I even have a TikTok. Like I make TikToks and stuff like that, which is like super fun. I mean, I like being funny. Like like that's just kind of my persona. And then on Instagram, I'm kind of super serious. Like post inspiration. That's where I put my inspiration, or I post players that I worked with and stuff like. That's kind of like my business. Like Twitter, I'm not so much like big on. Like I'll tweet here and there, but most of the time I'm just like looking at stuff. And Facebook's for the parents, so stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
But
you know, I'm sorry.
You're good. But like so people may see my Instagram and may think that like I perceive myself as some way. Like, and that's kind of where my anxiety comes from, because like people like tell me they expect me. Like they can't wait to meet me, and then I think they expect me to be a certain way, and I don't think I can live up to those expectations. But then eventually, like that eases when they realize what they really mean is me being me. And then also there's other people on the other spectrum who like think that I'm like clout chasing and stuff like that, which is a term that I don't really like being associated with.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Because like what I do for these players off the camera and stuff like that, off scenes, is a lot bigger, and what I care about most than like what I do on camera. Like even like there's a post on my Instagram where I tell people like I don't care about being the best trainer in the world. You know what I mean? My number one goal, and it's always been my number one goal since a little kid, was to show kids in my neighborhood that there's an opportunity out without drugs or violence or stuff like that, or gangs, you know what I mean? There's an opportunity to make money. There's an opportunity to make a living for yourself. So that's kind of what my number one goal is. And so like sometimes we're in the gym till 2 a.m. in the morning, and it looks like a party sometimes. Like we're having a lot of fun, which we are. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like it's a Friday night. Like where would these kids be from the times of like 10 and 2 a.m.? I would rather them in the gym with me, you know what I mean, instead of on the streets where anything could happen. Especially like in our neighborhood, we just had a couple of recent killings, you know what I mean? Like one of our kids could just be walking to the store and get hit with a stray bullet. And in my mind, I would be thinking like I should have opened up the gym that night. So that's why I feel the way I do about when my name gets associated with things like clout chaser and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, first, let me tell you something. If I was training people like the people you train, that's all my page would be. My default picture would be me and Melo. The whole page, I'd be like, yo, y'all remember that time 3 years ago when I worked with Kyrie? Don't forget about that. First of all, you should always be proud of your accomplishments. All right. And it's a tough. Everything I'm about to tell you is definitely a lot easier said than done. But we should definitely try our best, because you got to realize, like, you know, people are hating. I always think this to myself, is that I've always had a negative opinion on people or things. Like it's natural you have, but to go out of your way to publicize that or to tell them that's the difference between being a hater and just having a negative thought about something. Like if I did think something negative of you, I would just be like, oh, that's kind of whack or whatever. But, all right. But to go on your page and be like, this is whack, or to tell you like you're a clout chaser, or to throw a subliminal message, like that's where it's to the point where it's like, how bad do you have to feel about yourself to go do that to somebody else? So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's where like I try to come to an understanding, like this person may feel this way because they aren't where I am, especially in the short time that I've done it. So I look at it that way. And then I also, the reason why I don't like it that way, because some of the kids that I work with, when they see me in public, they think that I'm some type of like local celebrity. Right. So they don't talk to me. And I'm like, dude, sometimes I don't see you guys because like I'm just focused on the game, but like I love talking to these kids and like interacting with them, especially if they think that I'm a local celebrity. Like I want to be inspiration for them to like notice that, hey, I started from here, like literally dirt poor, single parent, seven brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest of 8. You know what I mean? Single mom didn't graduate college. She just got her GED, no car, like, and living and moving like 7 times from the age of 2 to 10 or 13, you know what I mean? So if I can do it with those circumstances, then you can do it, you know what I mean? So that's really what I'm trying to like get across with everything that I do, is that anything is possible. like if you put your mind to it and you got to believe that you can do
100%,
it. 100%.
yeah. I love that. And just to touch back on the stuff you were just saying. So one of the most interesting things I love to ask people when I sit down here, and one of the things that's probably the most important for me and my experience in doing all this is, what kind of work was required to get to where you get? Because if there's one thing I'm now realizing in its entirety is that nothing, I mean, it's such a cliche with people like, you got to earn it, or like, think good things come to those who work hard for it. Like, it's such a cliche.
Yeah.
But I used to always think like, okay, it can't be that tough, but it's even tougher than you could ever imagine. How hard was it to, like you said, battling those circumstances? The odds are stacked up against you, obviously. What kind of process was that to get from where you were to where you're at now and where you want to go beyond this?
It's definitely, it's tough. Like, it's hard work, especially starting from where I started from. But I always like had that vision in my mind. Like, I always wanted to go to college. Like, ever since a little kid, like that wasn't even like a question for me. Like, when people, like, I almost thought like college was a part of like high school. Like, you go to high school, like it was never an option for me not to go to college. And I always was, ever since a young kid, I was always self-aware about like what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? I always wanted to like be better than my circumstances and live outside my environment. You know what I mean? And it was tough at times. Like, it was super tough, like making the right decisions. But like, and I don't want to make it seem like I was this perfect kid, because if people know me from like middle school, like from elementary to middle school, I was one of the baddest kids to like step foot on earth. Like, my name was like a devil child. And the reason why I knew I could do like great things is because I was always the leader. So unfortunately, anytime we did something that would get us in trouble, I was the one, you know what I mean? But anytime it got out of like my control, where like we were going to do something that I didn't feel okay with, like then I would know, I was self-aware enough to know like, no, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And I would walk away from it. So like, I always had that self-aware. So then when I realized I can do that with my friends, I realized like I could take this and do something positive with it. You know what I mean? I could take this leadership quality that I have been blessed with and this hard work ethic that I've been blessed with and do something positive with it.
Yeah, so, I definitely want to talk a lot about the youth stuff, because it's clear that holds a special place in your heart, and I love that too. And what I was telling you before was that, for better or for worse, the truth of the fact is that, young people's minds are incredibly impressionable. Like, until you hit a certain age, you literally are not even capable of forming, your brain doesn't even fully develop until you're, I forget what it's like, early 20s or something like that. So your mind is impressionable. And the sad part is that just the way that media is, as much as I love social media, I always tell people I think social media is the best and worst thing to ever happen. Yeah. It's a double-edged sword. So how do you figure out ways to, because like I said, the unfortunate truth is that a lot of times it's a lot cooler when kids see, people doing drugs and getting in fights, like people, the way that rappers are and stuff like that. And, and luckily a lot of rappers are starting to take accountability for talking about drugs and stuff like that. But, how do you try to figure out a way to make the good things in life, keep it on the straight and narrow and doing great things? How do you make that appealing to a kid who might just think, I want to be a rapper and sell drugs and stuff like that? Like, how do you focus on that stuff?
I think that's hard because I don't have the super platform that I have yet to do that. But
I like that. Always keep talking like that. But everything's a matter of time.
For the people that I do have the relationship with, like, I just try to be an example. You know what I mean? So first of all, I tell my story and I'm honest with it, where like I was a bad kid. Like, anything you guys have, especially with the kids I work with at the Boys and Girls Club, like anything you guys tell me that you've done, I've done 10 times worse.
And a lot of times they don't think that. They think because of how you are now, they're like, oh, this dude's a square. Like, you don't realize. And you're like, if you only knew this stuff
exactly. So
I don't want to tell you that stuff.
Yeah, so like I always tell them, anything you think you've done, I've done 10 times worse. And for me to get where I am now, like when I was younger, I had teachers tell me that I should be in jail. Like, as a 7th grader, like they said, that's kids like you should be in, you know what I mean? So I was like, for someone to tell you that, like, you really, and to come out the way I did, then to do that, like, you got to be able to have a strong mindset, and you just got to be self-aware, and be like, you got to be okay to have fun and make mistakes, but you also got to be self-aware that everything you do has a consequence. You know what I mean? It could be a negative one, it could be a positive one, but everything you do has a consequence.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's a lot of way to make easy money, you know what I mean, selling drugs or anything like that. But in the long run, where do you want to be? You know what I mean? I like having money that's legal, because now I can share that with my family. You know what I mean? I have a bank account that's attached to my sister that anything happens to me, she gets all my money. You know what I mean? So like I can't do that if I have illegal money that I can't really I'm not supposed
money
to have.
It's gonna get seized by somebody.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. So that's why I that's something that was a thought that was always in my head. Like for me, the most appealing thing to these kids is money and nice clothes and stuff like that. But now like I can do that now, and I always say like the car I have now I bought on my own, and I always tell kids I bought this on my own, doing it the right way. You know what I mean?
And so it feels damn good too,
and it feels good. You know what I mean? I don't have to maneuver through certain things in order to get the things that I want. I did it the right way. Yeah, it's hard work and stuff like that, but it's worth it at the end.
It's helping, but you know what? The biggest thing you just said was it's helping people realize like it's not about what's going to happen tomorrow or this week. It's like in the long term, how can you create, you know, a career for yourself? How can you establish a good living where you and your family can be all right?
Yeah.
And how much do you think? Because I can definitely relate to you in this aspect. Because I'm the oldest of 6, but really it was me and 2 of my sisters and my brother who always lived together.
Yeah.
And I'm the oldest, and there was some really tough stuff that we went through. And I think being the oldest, unfortunately, and unfortunate as it is, it puts you in a position where you kind of have to man up. I'll say, for lack of better words, like you have to kind of like, all right, look, it ain't about me. It ain't about making myself feel better. It's about me and the other people below me, like my younger siblings. How do you think that impacted you? Think it made you, you know, that gave you that stronger mindset?
Absolutely, because when I first went off to college, I almost didn't want to because I was afraid of like what would happen if I left, what would happen in my household. But then on the other end, I was like, I have to go because I have to be the leader. You know what I mean? I have to be the first person in my immediate family to graduate from college to set the example. Because my mom didn't do it and my father didn't do it, so it has to start with me. So I felt that pressure, and like I feel that pressure even now sometimes with the kids that I work with that aren't my brothers and sisters. Like I have to, and it's motivating in a way. Like I have to do it because I have to be an example for these kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, you know what, I'll tell you too. I think that's so great, and it's something that we might not even always appreciate in its entirety, is because if you think about it, now just me personally at least, I'm much more likely to come through for if I feel like I'm doing it for somebody else than even myself. As much as I love myself and I want myself to do well, you know, when you're doing something for somebody else, there's a different level of accountability. You know, like if you got kids who are expecting you to be at the gym, you're way less likely to cancel than if it was just a ball session with you and your friends. Right? So how do you think that those kids and having that that sense of accountability and responsibility to them kind of keeps you motivated even when you feel like you might not be, because you said you struggle with anxiety and stuff like that.
So 2 things that motivate me the most, I would say, one, knowing that I'm gonna die. So like I know eventually I'm gonna die. So,
and that's just the truth. I love how you just came right out. That's just the truth, man. We all, our time is limited. This is what we do with the time we got.
So I know I'm gonna die. So my thought every morning when I wake up is like, what can I do today to impact someone? So before I die, like if I die today, what can I do today before I die that will help this person continue their whatever they need to do, you know what I mean, to impact them or to motivate them. So that's my first thought. And then the second thing to motivate me, like we talked about before, is knowing that there's people that are, 1, waiting for me to fail, and 2, believing in me. You know what I mean? Like I actually had this conversation. I had this conversation with a bunch of kids the other day. Like we kind of sit down every Wednesday and kind of like talk, and I always say, like I said, that there's people out there that are expecting kids in this community to fall into the cycle of selling drugs, going to jail, or dying. So you got to choose, like, and there's also people on the other end who want to see you guys win. So you got to choose which one you're going to prove right. You know what I mean? So that's something that's big for me. That motivates me a lot.
I like that, man. And you know, just to go back to the Kobe thing, as unfortunate as that was, one thing that it did show me though was that, I mean, we all know Kobe was he's one of the best basketball players ever. He was a global sports icon. But even knowing that, after he passed away, and you start to realize the reach and the impact he had, it was beyond anything I could have ever fathomed. Even knowing how big he was before he went, it's like, and that kind of stuff just goes to show, you know, if you can realize that, you know, when you say things like, as much as you hate, because I feel you on that. Like if people try to tell me like, oh, you know, I used to get, a lot of times people come like, oh, you're you know, Instagram famous. I used to hate stuff like that. It made me feel really weird. I'm like, no, I'm just a dude doing something. But at the same time, though, if you can realize and use that to your advantage, like, look, if people look up to me and they think I'm doing something big, and you want to call me a local celebrity, call me whatever you want. Hey, you can get here too. I started where you were at. You can get here too. This is how we can do it. So as weird as it might feel, because I could definitely imagine how you feel on that. When people say things like that, like, you know, we kind of got to ignore the people who are saying it in a negative aspect and start to capitalize. Like, I'll tell you one time, man, I had a story, and I couldn't believe this. I think this was actually the defining moment of when I realized the kind of impact I could have. And this is just through social media and stuff. and I'm trying to expand into that as I do these type of things.
Yeah.
But was when somebody had actually written me a message one time, and they were like, "Oh, I was watching your funny videos. Like, I had a really bad week. I've been in a dark spot. I really wanted to end my life this week, and watching your videos helped me out of that." And when I saw that, I was like, I actually didn't know how to react. Honestly, I kind of just read it over like 5 or 6 times. I was like, "There's no way this person who I've never met can think that me making a corny, funny video that I did in like 2 minutes." But when you realize you can have that kind of impact, that made me accept that responsibility, and now I feel like I want to pass that on as much as humanly possible.
So like I get those messages quite often where like either parents or players, like I texted a player yesterday and I said, "Hey, I just watched your film," and I just gave them some tips, and then they text me back like, "Hey, I really needed that, like I've been struggling this season." You know what I mean? So like to get those messages are super like it makes you feel like what you're doing is impactful.
Yeah, it's impactful, sure. It's meaningful, and it also gives you something that you couldn't put a price on the sort of gratification you get out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But and so we'll before I let you go, we'll finish off with the most important thing of all this is the mental health aspect. And I think it's amazing. I did not know this before you came in here, but was the fact that you're doing the psychology. I think that's huge because that actually gives you a lot of true knowledge, not even just the stuff you experience, but actual, written knowledge that you can get. So how important is the mental health aspect to you, just in life in general and then also in sports?
For me personally, it's super important. Just because like you said with the message with someone attempting to take their life. When I was younger, when I was 13, I was going through a super hard time family issues wise, and like my mom wanted to ship me off to my dad. I didn't want to go. I was struggling in school. I actually failed the 8th grade because of it, and because I was just like so messed up. And like I actually went away and I found the gun and I attempted to kill myself, and luckily the gun didn't, like, I think it was on safety. I was so young, I didn't know what I was doing, like, and it didn't click or anything like that. So that day that I did that, a couple of days later, I actually posted on my Snapchat. I went home and I wrote, and I was like in order to change, something like, I don't even really remember, I have the picture, but like in order to change like the world around you, or in order to change the world, you have to change the world around you, and you have to change the way you look at the world and change the people that's in your world in order for the world to be a better place. And like that day I committed to never let myself get into that space where I feel like that I want to take my own life. So that from that point on, I like worked every day. Like, so big thing for me is like when I feel kind of like anxious and stuff like that, before I started meditating and stuff, I would just write. So like I have like 2 or 3 journals right now, like from past years, just filled of me just writing my thoughts out, like getting my ideas on paper or getting like the way I felt on paper. And like I was talking to someone yesterday, and it's just something, the way it makes you feel when you see your thoughts written down, it almost makes you like feel better.
It's way different. Yeah, it's way different because you're actually putting it on paper. You're making it a physical creation now instead of just words in your mind.
So like, and then so for that, I like wasn't dealing with an anxiety for like a long time. And then over the summer, when I went on the plane to fly out to LA, like, well, going on a plane for me makes me anxious anyway. But like I'm used to that. But then like I was sitting in comfort seating, and like I'm sitting next to these 2 white guys, and I'm sure they're like business, like they probably paid for their seating, and luckily I got upgraded to comfort seating or whatever. And like I'm sitting there and I'm like, in my mind I'm like damn, I'm not supposed to be here. Like I almost felt like this is almost this is too much success for me. Like I shouldn't be on a plane right now flying out to California to work with NBA players. Like I shouldn't be here. So like that, so I learned about that, and I researched that, and that was like an anxiety of being successful, like how that felt. So it was just like super weird. And then like a couple of times, like even being in the gym, when I woke up and I was there with like Candace Parker and stuff, I was like, bro, I shouldn't be passing the ball to Candace Parker. Like, why am I here? You know what I mean? Like, what made me so special to like be here? But then eventually like I got over that. And then like over the summer, I had a super rough summer. Like I dealt with a breakup and stuff like that after 4 years. And then like other things were just happening, like with me and my mom, and just like, I just had a crazy summer. It was fun, and I couldn't enjoy it because I was just so like anxious about everything that happened. So I started meditating, and like, so I used an app called Headspace. So
I've used it before.
Yeah. So I was probably like, so I used it in California the first time I used it to like alleviate that. And then like I started using it when I got back, and I used it over the summer and stuff. And I used Headspace, and I started writing again and stuff, and it made me feel better. And then like and then it got so worse until the fall that I took like a break from everything. Like there was days like if my sister didn't come and wake me up and get me out of bed and like force me to go see the sunset, like I wouldn't have gotten off the couch. So like I just laid there and like kind of wallowed in my sadness and stuff like that. And then like I eventually, like I was driving home probably like 1-2 a.m. and I was like, is social media right now worth my sanity? Like, why am I escaping what I'm feeling with social media? So I deleted all my social medias. I unfollowed everyone on Twitter. I unfollowed everyone on Instagram. I deleted my Snapchat, and I deleted my Facebook for a good like 7 to 14 days. And I slowly got it back. But like me doing that like 2 a.m. in the morning, as soon as I started unfollowing people and deleting the apps, like I felt better.
Yeah.
And then progressively I felt better, and I was like, like it felt good to take that break. And then now that I'm back on it, and like I have people texting me and emailing me now. So now the anxiety that I deal with now is that when I wake up in the morning and I look at my phone, I have 70 messages from either parents texting me about their kid, a kid texting me about their playing time, emails about like, you know what I mean? So like looking at my phone and seeing that makes me super like, I feel like I have to save everyone like at once. And that's why I'm a super like big Batman and like Joker fan, because I've never told anyone this, but I feel like I live with that dynamic of like where I have to be Batman and I have to like wear this mask and save everyone. And then I feel like on the other end, I feel like I'm the Joker where I'm like going crazy and I'm still trying to save everyone, but like now I'm going crazy. I need to save myself. You know what I mean? Like if you watch the movies, that's kind of what the movie is really about. Like Joker kind of like going crazy, but he knows Batman's not going to kill him, but he kind of needs someone to save him. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, he's going to destroy everything in his path in order to get there, but he kind of knows Batman's never going to kill him because that's not what he does.
Yeah, I like that. I never really thought about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of, well, I mean, that's what I take from the movie. And so I feel like I'm Batman every time I wake up. So like the first thing I do before I even get on my phone is I meditate right away. And if I don't, like yesterday, I was kind of rushing because I was late for something. I didn't, and I was like, I feel super anxious.
The effect,
I feel super anxious. I need to meditate real quick. So like, and it's just 10 minutes. Like take 10 minutes out of my day, and I meditate in the morning. Then I pray right after, and then I'll go to my phone. And then I realized like I don't need to attack everything at once. Like I can answer this person, 100%. And this person could wait a little bit. You know what I mean? And it just makes me feel a lot better. Like it makes me not feel like I have to be perfect for everyone. So like. And that once I realized that, is like that was a big thing for me over the summer, like telling myself was like, I made a mistake and like I don't need to be perfect. Like I don't. So like once that opened up, like I got a couple of tattoos, and like before I would judge myself before getting a tattoo, I'd be like, man, I'm not going to get a tattoo because this person's not going to work out with me because I have a tattoo. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it because like if they don't, it's what I want. And if this person decides not to bring their child to work out with me because I have a couple of tattoos,
and that's a person you were probably never meant to work with in the first place.
And that's their loss. It's not my loss. You know what I mean? So like I got a couple of tattoos from there, and like, and all my tattoos to me are super meaningful, and like they do help me. Like if I meditate in the morning and I'm feeling anxious still, and I can't meditate right away, I look down and I have God will rise. That's my first tattoo I got, and I'm just like, wow, like. For me, that means that God will show up in whatever situation you're in, so it makes me feel better. And then I have a portrait kind of like of a lion with thorns on his head, and that reminds me of like, it's kind of a self-portrait for me, kind of what I represent. It's like me, I'm kind of like a king, essentially, but instead of having a crown, I have a thorn because that's just the way I was growing up. I was grown up and I had a rough time, so I have to get to the kingdom. I have to get to whatever the promised land, but in order to get there, I have to wear these thorns. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I got that one. And then the other one I got is just says lion-hearted because that's a similar thing. Like that's how I feel like I am. But besides me personally, so like going on to the player and like the youth that I work with part, like I feel like first of all, first generational students that go to college, I feel like that's almost like the same way I felt. So I like connecting things. So that's like the same way I felt, first of all, personally, but I always knew I was going to college, but that's how I felt being on that plane. Like some kids probably get to college, especially as a first generational student, and they think like, I'm not supposed to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like I'm the first one, especially if you had people above you who didn't make it.
Yeah, so
that makes it even tougher.
Yeah, so it's like you're not supposed to be here. So I feel for them on that level. And then like the players like dealing with the anxiousness. I was a basketball player, so I understand that part of being anxious. Like I try to tell them like, just take 5 minutes before the game and just breathe. Just breathe, relax, and understand that this is supposed to be fun, and essentially it's just a game. You know what I mean? It's your life does not it's not unbalanced because of this game. You know what I mean? You're not gonna die if you lose this game. Maybe you'll play bad and you may not start the next game, but you're not gonna die. You know what I mean? So
not
that's
the end of the world.
Yeah. So that's kind of that on the player aspect. That's kind of the only anxiety that I see players deal with, like, is the anxiousness or like missing a shot.
Yeah.
Like, and I keep on telling them.
You let that doubt creep
Yeah,
in.
yeah. Like, you, first of all, you come to the gym and you shoot. Like, sometimes we go in a workout and we shoot over 150 shots.
Yeah, you're not going to make 150.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I say the greatest shooter in the world probably, like, at the time was Steph Curry, you know what I mean? And he makes 40% of threes. So he's making less than he takes. Yeah. So it's okay to miss a couple of times, you know what I mean? So that's the only anxiety that I hear players that deal with on that level.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting aspect, man, because I really highly value mental health, but I come at it from a much different angle because, and I always tell people I would never lie about this, I've never experienced, at least not to my best estimation, I've never experienced depression. I've experienced some really tough stuff in life, a lot of things that I probably will surprise people when they hear about it because I don't seem like I've been through those things. But I really am, like, I'm the happiest person I know. Yeah. I am almost always happy. Like, I really am in a good mood. And so when I approach mental health, I approach it from an aspect of I want everybody to feel how I feel. Because I feel damn good on almost an entirely 100% basis. So I look at it that way. But that's why I love to have those conversations, because that's really my only insight into, depression, anxiety, and those kind of tough things is through the experiences of others, because I haven't really experienced it much, for whatever reason, it just never was. And like I said, that's why I have this sense of responsibility to just try to pass on, that's why I love comedy. That's why I started with the comedy stuff, is because it's a great way, being able to laugh is one of the best ways and most healthy ways to cope with pain, so I look at it from that aspect. But one of the things I really appreciate that you said was, like, when you look at everything, you get overwhelmed if you look at everything in its entirety. Yeah. So if absolutely. You got 70 messages and all your thought is, how do I get back to 70 messages? That's impossible. But if you have 70 messages, you say, okay, let me look at these 5. Like, how can I get down with these 5? And then when you go to look at them, it's 65 messages. Yeah. Take 5 out, you go to looking at 60. Next thing you know, it gets easier and easier because you're looking at less and less. But I think our natural reaction is to look at everything as a whole. Like, there's, even for me, there's some days when I wake up, I'm like, damn, I got so much stuff on my plate today. Like, I don't want to think about none of this stuff. Like, how am I going to get all done? But then I'm like, okay, how do I get this thing done by 10 o'clock? And then how do I get that thing done by the next hour? Yeah. Like, you could tackle it like that. It makes it a lot easier. Yeah,
so what helps me a lot, like you're saying, like time and stuff. So what I've started implementing now is, like, I'll do something for 15 minutes, like no distractions. I'll put my phone away, whatever. I'll answer, or if I have to answer someone back, like via text message, I'll answer them back. I'll answer everyone back for 15 minutes. Then I'll take a 5-minute break. And during those 5-minute breaks, like, I put my phone away, I'll read or something or whatever. Like, I'll just relax. And then I'll start again 15 minutes. And then that's the way, like, I kind of work now. And it, like, that's super, like, helpful and productive for me. Absolutely.
That's cool, man. Yeah. So, before I ask you where people can find you and all that good stuff, one thing, like I said, I saw you post a status about wanting to do, basically wanting to have, like, a video catalog of the pretty much life and experiences of you and, like, people your age, people older than you, to pass on to the youth. What made you want to do that, and what do you think is kind of your goal with all that?
It was kind of like, it came up when I was having that round table with those younger kids. Like, I wanted them to hear those experiences from someone else, other people in our neighborhood, because we kind of all share the same experiences, and then we also have different experiences growing up in the neighborhood. So for them to understand that it's not only me that feels this way, and that there's other people in the community that have been successful in their own right, that they can reach out to them also. And so to have that on video format where they can just go and look at it would be a great thing, I think, for them to have access to.
Yeah, that's why I really like doing this too, because, I mean, like I said, you may not even realize it, I may not even realize it as we sit here and record this, but this is going to mean, the things that we're talking about is going to mean something to somebody.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's one thing I've noticed that every episode I post, whether people tell me it or not, is that the things that I say to the people who are on here and the things that they say to me, they resonate in a big way. And especially when we're talking about things like we're talking about with mental health and stuff, it resonates in a big way. And one of the biggest things is letting people know, because that sense of isolation, that sense of I'm the only person experiencing this, it's so irrational, but it's something that everybody experiences at one point or another. Like, I'm the only person who's experiencing this. Like, why does this stuff only happen to me? That sense of isolation. But when you realize, like, oh, this person who's obviously, like, successful, he does these great things, somebody I look up to, he struggled with it too. It makes you feel a lot better, and it makes them feel like, well, now I can conquer that kind of stuff too. You know?
Yeah, that, I mean, going back to, like, the Batman concept, like, that's how I feel. Like you said, you always feel happy. Like, I always tried to perceive like being super happy and like wearing this mask and like saving the world. But now like I've been more open to like sharing my experiences. Like now I know
and that
like
stuff
that's
is meaningful. Letting people know like it's not all rainbows and sunshine.
Exactly.
All the time.
Yeah.
But how can we conquer the things that are not
exactly
in order to reach those better days?
Yeah.
So I can really appreciate that, man. And before I let you go, what kind of stuff do you got upcoming? Like as far as training, if you've got any sort of events or what kind of work you're doing, and then just let people know where they can find you at.
Yeah. So right now we're running an academy for 5 to 8 year olds. We started week 4, so that's where I just left from. This is our first year doing it. It's going super nice. So if any 5 to 8 year olds out there looking to start up and play basketball, learn fundamental skills, feel free to contact me. And so we got a couple of clinics coming up. One for President's Day. And then I'll be gone for a little bit, and then we'll have a free one in June when I come back from California, and then we'll have academy starting up again in the summer. But we'll have a lot of more clinics throughout the year, leading up into the academy and stuff like that. But I just don't know the dates of them right now.
So for people, all right. So for the audience listening and watching, basically check him out. You can put your socials, and I'll throw it up here like I always do, and just stick by him, follow him to keep posted with that, because like you said, there's obviously a lot of stuff going on. Things are ever changing. So where can people find you in order to kind of keep up with that stuff?
So the best place to find me would probably be on Instagram. Roll the Trainer on Instagram, and Twitter, Roll the Trainer on Twitter, Roll the Trainer on Snapchat if you want to see all the fun I have. Yeah. And then you could also follow me on TikTok if you want to watch all my funny TikToks about my mom ruining my childhood.
I can feel on that.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, I really appreciate you coming by. This was definitely a dope sit down and some good stuff. And, everybody definitely be sure to check him out. Stay in tune with that stuff. And as always, I will see you guys next week. Peace. Oh, hey, did you like the episode? I hope you did. And if you did, then maybe check out this one. Or you can always check out this one too. Take your pick. Did you pick one yet? You got this one. You've got this one. Okay, I get it. You're shy. You don't want to pick in front of me. That's cool. Take your time. Here they are. Make your choice. And as always, stay tuned for the next one.